20 years ago today, the world was introduced to the future of the DCAU.
And now, Kids WB's world premiere of Batman Beyond.
I would let my kid watch this, if I had any. Aside from two other animated shows that came out during my childhood, Batman Beyond is quite possibly the darkest one of the three. Yeah, I don't believe that at all, Bruce. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would they call an adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns Batman Beyond? Well, 'cause it's not, and this scene proves it.
Ever since I was a kid, Big Bad Batman's always been making life hard for guys like me.
Oh, fuck. That just happened. Turns out Old Man Bruce had a heart attack because he's getting up there in years. Also, yeah, he did that. Batman doesn't do that.
Stop it! Wrong! Knock it off!
So where do we go from here? The future. The thing that is very scary yet no one thinks about. And we get a new main character, Terry McGinnis. A street smart punk who's got a bit of temper and potential. He was only looking out for himself until his father was murdered one night after he had an argument. And he learned... Wait a minute. I'm watching Batman, right? Because this sounds awfully familiar. He even quips with the villains he fights.
A little early for Halloween.
But just in time for fall.
Wait! He's popular, doesn't get bullied, and he already has a girlfriend at the start of the series. I knew I could find some major differences between Terry and the other guy who may or may not shoot webs from his wrists. If anything, he's kind of the opposite of Bruce. He doesn't bring fear into criminals because criminals just aren't scared of Batman anymore. Batman's honestly not the scariest thing walking around in Neo Gotham 2039, not when you got things like this walking around on the streets, so I guess a guy in a bat suit isn't so scary anymore.
Batman Beyond world premiere will return after these messages.
He's also a very inexperienced fighter. There's only so much that his street smart prowess can get him, and it doesn't really get him far with villains like Blight or Inque or Mad Stan, so he's kind of reliant on the suit and the suit's gadgets. And yes, he does get training later on in the series, which I think should have been something that they did or should have done in season 1, but they don't. They don't start doing that until probably about mid-season 2. I know they said they were busy, but that should have been something that should have been focused on in Season 1 so he wouldn't be so unprepared and, well, really, so he wouldn't get his ass beat.
Look, you may be used to dealing with freaks and monsters, but I'm a little new at this. I don't even know what half this stuff is.
Way before your time. No one's noticed you yet?
No one. Whoa! Just when the game was getting good.
You're pretty strong for some clown who thinks he's Batman.
I am Batman.
We also have a elderly Bruce Wayne who's still a badass. He's more of a cynical recluse now. As the series goes on, he lightens up and talks about his past adventures with Terry.
Mr. Wayne, those things I said, I'm sorry. This kind of thing ever happened to you?
Let me tell you about a woman named Selina Kyle.
Hearing the back and forth between these two is one of the best things about this show.
I do. That theater. It was where my parents and I went the night they were.
I'd think you'd want it to be torn down. So maybe after all these years you could finally forget.
Do you want to forget what happened to your father? Better take this. It's got some things you might be able to use.
Thanks.
I'd give you one of my old costumes, but most of them are pretty torn up. You know, bullet holes, burns, gashes.
I know what you're trying to do, but it won't work. I'm still going. Wayne, you there?
Go ahead.
Is there any time of day I get to have a social life?
Not in this business.
You get a real kick out of this, don't you? Maybe it should be you up here instead of me. So Powers is crippling the competition with sabotage.
And until we can stop him, you're Fox Tekka's guardian angel. Now tell me what you see.
Looks like someone's celebrating July 4th. Inside their office. I'm going in.
And you can tell that through their conversations that they respect each other and are forming a student-protege relationship. Much like what Batman was based off, Zorro. Terry's mother and brother are given screen time but are never really fleshed out enough for me to really get a grasp of the characters. The same can be said for Dana Tan, Terry's girlfriend. They tried to make her interesting, but a lot of the time it just seemed like she was taking up screen time from other characters. Like Max, she may be way in over her head, but she still means well. She just wants to help, even if she sees it as a thrill at first. Ace is also an ally, even though he's just a dog. That's one badass dog. Barbara Gordon is a police commissioner in the future and has resentment for Terry at first, but only because she knows what he's getting himself into.
Listen to experience, kid. I appreciate what you've done tonight, but ditch the costume. You can't live a life of narrow escapes forever. It's a thankless existence, and the rewards are small, if any.
Well, sometimes the small rewards are the best ones.
The Batman Beyond world premiere will return in a moment.
A majority of the villains made for this show are actually pretty cool, with a few of Bruce's villains returning as well. There were cool villains like Inque, Spellbinder, Mad Stan, Shriek, Willie Watt, Blight, the Jokers, the Tees, the Royal Flush Gang, and Cobra. And even though Zeta isn't an antagonist, he was the main focus of 2 episodes. His guest appearance, I guess, was so popular with audiences, or the executives at Warner Brothers, that they asked Robert Goodman if they could make a spin-off show continuing his adventures.
I should go. They'll have followed my last signal to this area.
Good luck, Zeta.
He later did get a spin-off in 2001 called The Zeta Project, which would cross over with Batman Beyond 2 more times. Then we'd get some really lame ones like False Face, Payback, and Big Time. For the most part, I really like the villains for this show and the world building in Neo Gotham. Even the one-time villains are interesting, like Robert Vance, Simon Harper, and Brain Trust. But before I move on, I'd like to specifically highlight Mad Stan.
Blow it all up!
Keep it down, Stan. We're in a library.
You think this is a joke? Look around, Batman. Society is crumbling. And do you know why?
Too many overdue books?
Information overload, man. As a society, we're drowning in a quagmire of vid clips, email, and sound bites. We can't absorb it all. There's only one sane solution. Blow it up! You're just contributing to the problem, man. Playing hero just for another blurb on the 11 o'clock news.
Be careful, McGinnis. Once he's on a rant, he's unstoppable.
Thanks for telling me now.
I'd like to see more from Mad Stan. Give him his own podcast or TV show. Even better, have a show where he's just ranting for 20 minutes against a blank background and target it towards children. I smell a hit. The writing in some episodes feels like there's too much going on, with episodes ending abruptly. Setting up new villains, characters, opening fight scene, world building, then having a climactic fight near the end. Some episodes just felt bloated. It's not the writer's fault, they had a lot to juggle with many things to put into consideration. What did come out of it was various good episodes and some bad episodes. Also, I think I know where Christopher Nolan got that iconic line in The Dark Knight.
Let's put a smile on his face.
The casting of Will Friedle, who was known as Eric from Boy Meets World at the time, is interesting. Who knew he had this kind of performance in him?
Come on, I know you're in there. Listen to me, something stinks in your company. I think it cost my old man his life. The answer's on this. I'd take it to the cops, but you know how cozy they are with powers? How about you taking a look?
Yeah, I should have known you wouldn't care. I read up on you, Mr. Wayne. I know how you lost your folks. The guy who murdered my dad is on that transport. This is my one chance to nail him.
Kevin Conroy, as always, brings his A game to the table as he portrayed an elderly Bruce Wayne. Casting-wise, that's all I really have to say, since the majority of the focus is on Terry and Bruce. The art style is like the other DCAU shows, with it getting a refinement tweak in the middle of Season 2. Also, like the DCAU shows, it has style. Many of the best action scenes occurred during the latter half of Season 1 and pretty much all of Season 2. This one being my favorite. The soundtrack, legendary. I just wish that we would get all the tracks that they made for the show released on CD or just released in general. It doesn't matter if it's released on iTunes. And yes, it does get the Beavis and Butthead seal of approval.
Hey, but you know what? Make that stuff on the tube is emotional loop. Yeah, but it brainwashes me to consume all I see. Yeah, consume losers.
I still look back at this show with fondness, and I think it's very shui. This show had a lot going for it. While there was times where there were villains that weren't that great, some episodes feeling bloated, and episodes revolving around certain characters or concepts that didn't work. The last episode was originally supposed to air 3 days after 9/11, but then 9/11 happened. It premiered 3 months later on Toonami.
Only Toonami.
And what was the climactic end to Batman Beyond? It was just another episode where he took off his mask in front of a kid and Cobra's after said kid. Yeah, this is the finale. Wow! The Call Part 1 and 2 would have been a better send-off than this. But, you know what? It's okay. The episode is good. Miguel's safe. It's a good episode overall.
'Cause that was him. I see him here all the time.
And he's never recognized you.
Never.
Hey, Miguel, let's go. I'm coming.
At the very least, Terry got some guest appearances down the road along with a special Justice League Unlimited episode called Epilogue, which I may talk about sometime later this month. The final verdict for Batman Beyond is a recommendation. This show has its own little fan base, and not too many people know about this young Dark Knight, but maybe in the future we'll get a live-action movie adaptation. I'm Lino Mars of the MMCA Productions crew, and I'll see you next time.